So, I didn't actually watch anything in the week leading up to my trip up to Colorado, Wyoming. So, for the most part, uh, the only I well, it's not for the most part. The simple truth of the matter is the only thing I have to talk about are the three things I watched on the journey. And it was only three 12, 13 episode series because I actually spent a lot of my time making my way through Scourge and also helping my brother unlock all the characters on Brawl. So basically, Brawl is Brawl. That would be the third time I've unlocked all the characters in Subspace via Subspace Emissary. Fun stuff. The other game I played was Scourge Hive. It's a game that was released, I think, early into the DS's life. It looks like it was probably originally made for the Game Boy Advance and quickly ported onto the DS, so it wasn't all that expensive. But it's been interesting so far. I've just had an irritating time with the final form of the final boss. If you play it, you may play it thinking, this is a lot like Metroid Fusion. I mean, some of the things that weren't in Metroid Fusion but were in other Metroid games may be kind of present-ish. But it's also kind of its own unique, different little thing. It's fun. Anyways, on to the anime, the real important bread and butter of the stuff. Let's see. First off, the first anime I watched was Shigofumi. I had previously watched 6 episodes. Since I couldn't remember details of what happened in those 6 episodes, I opted to rewatch it from the beginnings, which isn't all that much additional episode watching, and it allows for a consistent viewing experience, right? Watching all of it, it wasn't too bad, I guess. Probably about what I expected, but watching it now, I couldn't help but feel like some of the episodes felt like something that was out of Hellgirl. In fact, one of the episodes I vaguely remembered as if it was a Hellgirl episode, so it was really interesting to see it and say, oh, wait, that was a Shigofumi episode, huh? I don't really know what else to say about it right now. I enjoyed it. It wasn't, super spectacular, awesome, everybody has to see it, but at the same time, it just kind of, it was the right thing. I was in the right mood to watch something like that. Something subtly eerie, I guess. Oh well. Anyways, the second thing I watched was Ga-Rei Zero, and it was actually pretty good. My only complaint about it would actually be that it introduced a bad guy and really didn't do anything to explore what happened there. I guess kind of like Eden of the East didn't really resolve the main story it had and left open-ended to go into the movies and whatnot. Maybe Ga-Rei Zero did something similar. I haven't checked to see if there's been anything other than the 13 episode series that's out on DVD. And I did only watch the DVD version because I only brought DVD rips with me on a 1 terabyte external hard drive, so I had a shit ton of stuff to choose from. These are the things I just happened to choose. Anyways, I enjoyed it. A good action anime. I could see why some people who really want an action anime could be disappointed by it, but it's not necessarily bad. I mean, it's kind of similar to Gungrave in a certain respect, where Gungrave begins out as a stereotypical, maybe Hellsing-ish superhuman fighting zombies sort of thing, and then it kind of says, okay, now that we've introduced the action, we're actually going to go back in time and tell this really awesome story about how everything developed up to that point. And Ga-Rei Zero was almost kind of like that, where it set up this really awesome opening and then kind of began with a simpler route of building up the story that led up to that point. With a little more action than I think Gungrave had. So in certain ways, they're kind of similar in that approach, but kind of different in terms of what exactly they had in there, I think. Oh well. Anyways, I enjoyed that. And the final thing I watched was Avenger, something that I had started watching at some point in the past. I'm not quite sure how far I got back then, and I might have taken a guess on my Mal and Anime Planet accounts, but honestly, since I didn't remember any of the exact details, I rewatched it from the beginning. And the very first thing that struck me, something that I didn't know if I realized the first time I watched it was definitely made by the same people who did Hack Sign. And I'm not talking about just like the same character designs or the same animators. It's kind of exposes itself in the same way, the same character designs, same character animations, same character subtleties. Like Hack Sign had plenty of parts in it where characters just interacted with subtle facial expressions that you weren't quite sure what exactly they were saying there, but you had a vague concept. And Avenger did a lot of the same thing. It also began with out revealing a whole lot of stuff and revealing it kind of as it went. So overall, um, I wouldn't be surprised to find that everything about Avenger was exactly the same as Hacksai in terms of who made it. You know, maybe it was the same mangaka and the same studio adopted it after doing Hack Sign or something like that on the hopes of getting another Project Hack or something. I don't know. Anyways, it wasn't entirely satisfactory. Hack Sign, it could almost have a similar problem in that it doesn't really resolve this overall mystery it sets up, but at the same time, Hack Sign is really neat in that it resolves the story that was told in Hack Sign to introduce you to the bigger picture problem that's going on. I'm trying to think of a good other example of something like that, but nothing comes to mind. And the problem with Avenger is it probably could have done as good well as Hack Sign if there was this big overall mystery to it, but really it didn't do that. What Avenger had was its own story, and it had some pretty solid ideas in there. But I think it was a little vague in a couple of areas, so it wasn't. I'm not entirely sure on a couple of things because they kind of explain them by just having characters offhand mentioning something, and I'm not really sure I can complain about it too much on the camera without revealing important plot points. So overall, it wasn't a bad experience, but it was a little disappointing in terms of not coming away completely understanding it. Not as big of a problem as the ending of Big O, mind you, but, you know, still scratching my head on a couple of those things. Anyways, I guess that was all the anime I watched. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to watch in this coming week because my TV died. Chances are it's just um, bulging capacitors and maybe something that I can fix for a couple dollars. But at the same time, since I've been wanting a new TV, I should probably slow down on the anime DVD purchases and save up the money to buy a new TV like I've wanted to. And then once I have that, work on fixing this TV. So if I don't succeed, I'm not TV-less or whatever. So the reason that's important in terms of what I'm going to watch is I don't know if that will affect whether or not I just watch some casual stuff in the background while I do other things. Because now I'm having to watch anime on either the same computer I browse the internet on or the same computer I play Minecraft on. And as you can tell, that could create some contention since I pretty much only had limited exposure to either of them on our trip. So, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But, I don't know. We'll be able to see what happens. So, that's this week's anime analysis.